right, what's up YouTube? I just wanted to go through and kind of do a little bit of an update on Kanna and kind of where I'm at right now. So it's already gained like quite a bit of traction. So if we pull up the GitHub, you'll see it's actually already got nearly 400 stars. We're seeing people put up some PRs, which is nice. There's a few issues that people are putting up. This is a new one, actually. It's funny, like everything people want, I've been working on. Hopefully we can get this set up and some more of these features brought in, but notifications a bit hard. So if you, whoever this is, if you see this video, notifications is hard without HTTPS. So you'll need to have secure connections via Tailscale to do that, but you can definitely do it. It's something I've been working on, so bear with me. But yeah, I just want to talk about where I'm at. A few things I've been working on. This looks very different to the base application. So if we look at what Jake's built, it's a very clean, it's a very simple UI, and I love it. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. I want this to be a bit more of a deep dive on what I'm working on, but I also want to talk about how you can take an item like this. It's a very simple concept and build it into your own product. You don't need to follow the lines. You don't need to wait for other people to update it. You can build on this yourself. Like the amount I've done in 1 or 2 days is kind of crazy, but I'm going to walk you through a lot of my workflow and stuff like that. For me to run it, I actually just run it as a completely local instance. So I don't even need to use the install script. I just clone the repo and I run the build, and then I do bun run start. And you can implement a lot of the features I've built myself. Another option is you can just go to my repository and you can fork or grab my version of the code. I'm 28 commits ahead of Jake, and that's not including some of the features I'm working on locally. If you come in here, there's a lot more actually in here that you can use. So I do a lot of custom remote stuff. So if you go like -- remote, or actually this has changed, I need to update this, but it's like -- host, then you can put in the Tailscale name, or you can just figure out your IP and stuff like that, or you can just use -- remote and it should bind it to 0.0.0.0. It's just the documentation here is wrong. This is actually host. I will, in a second, we can start up a chat to run that. But something I've been expanding on is like just the features available in the product. I love the idea of this. So for me, it was like a no-brainer to build on something that I would use as a developer. One of the biggest things I wanted was like understanding context. Up here, I've added like this, just a context meter. If this gets above like 75, 80%, it lets me know. There is still a couple of bugs there. For example, like it thinks that Codex only has a 258K window, but it actually has a mil. Similarly, we have a branching thing here. We can come in here and look at all the GitHub branches. This is something I've just been adding. It's like understanding what branch I'm on while I'm implementing code, because I found I was working on a feature and I'd start a chat on another feature, but didn't really know what branch it was on. And that's where I've started leaning into work trees, but I haven't come up with a nice way to integrate work trees just yet. And then something else I use is the terminal. I love having a terminal here on this machine. And we're going to jump over to mobile in a minute and show you some of the stuff I've done there. And then Jake's working on the diff. So that's something I'm excited for. I think once the diff is in there, then that's going to be huge. I can come in here and have like a 3-wide thing, and I can check out the diffs that are going on. I've also added, we go back to the bottom, I've also added image upload. So come in here, you can see some of the funny images I add to these things. You can preview the image, you see what it's getting back, and then go from there. You can also see from this chat what I'm working on right now, which is a Gemini connector. It works. It's got a few kinks, but it's not far away. I've got a PR up for it if you want to play with that. It's just on my fork, but hopefully Jake can get some of the current features implemented, and then I can look at adding some of these to his fork as well. We've kind of added a few other things too, like we added the attachments like I was saying, but the biggest change is probably in the sidebar. I'd love your opinions on this, because this is something I'm not 100% on, but I love this as a feature with the early days of ChatGPT, where you could break things down into categories. And for me, I love working on features. I'm an engineer. I work on features, not entire vibe coded apps. So if I can come in here and I can see, oh, I'm working on these different features. And for example, I finished this Kanna board, so I moved it to done. But if I'm like, oh, I want to move this one to done, right? So I've staged multiple Gits and I've worked on this bug for importing chat, so I can move this to done and it moves it to the bottom of the list. And then from there, we have our general chats, which is just everything else that exists that you've talked about with the AI. It's completely remembers everything now. So if I refresh, if I'm on a different device, this is actually me connecting remotely. So if I go to my local machine, I can go to the actual dev instance and I get the same visual. So we can talk about that a little bit as well. But it just stores it in a new folder we create as part of the application. And yeah, it does it that way. I went a little bit beyond just having these nice feature folders. It actually generates like an overview.md. So if I'm in the code and I want to look at the different features it's written, I can come in here, I can look at the different feature folders. And then in here, it creates two things. Some of these are a little bit buggy still, but you can see here it's created a feature JSON, which just stores the state, and then an overview.md. So if I come in and I'm like, oh, I want to make some notes for a feature, I can come in here and add some notes. And that kind of stores that in under the .Kanna directory. From there, I was like, well, some people won't like to have a Kanban style sort of progress system. So we went even further and I added that as an option. You can turn that off. You can completely turn off the folders and you just get your base charts. You don't need to use the folder groups, but it's something I really enjoyed. And I personally like to see what state it's in when I'm working on these things. And then from there, we've got providers. So something we're working on right now, like I said, is Gemini. I'm trying to get that implemented as quickly as I can because Codex is bad at front end. Claude Code has a lot of bugs with usage limits right now, and Gemini still is pretty good at front end. So I'd love to be able to sort of divide and conquer, take a plan from Claude, pass the back end to Codex, pass the front end to Gemini, and that's kind of my workflow. And if I could do that much simpler, then I can break that down on a feature sort of setting. Something else I'm also working on is opening and hiding the sidebar. Not that that's a big deal, but it's something I personally just like. It's like a really, I'm not sure why it doesn't work on that screen, but it does now. Again, it's still early days for this, but I'm just thinking of different ways I would want to work on this. And I am working on it. I have my PDF application. I've got some other automated AI stuff that I'm working on that I'm going into depth about. Now that I have a better application layer to handle all my different contexts and different models. But if I want to like create a new feature, I can come in and be like YouTube feature, and that creates a new folder. It starts it as an idea and it creates a new chat. And then that on its own is kind of cool, right? So not only that, but we can also close the folder if we don't want to view the chats. We can drag it around. If I want to move this up here, I can put it up there. If I want to put it at the bottom, because it's not important, I can do that. Actually, it won't let me go beyond the done ones, but it lets me move it to the bottom there. But then I can also change the state. And if I have it in to do and I move it to done, it automatically goes to the bottom. So now you can see it moves it down there. I don't know what it's yet, so it moves it back up. So again, like a lot of this has still not been tested and not really verified, but this is the direction I'm leaning. I built all of this myself in like 2 days, and poor Jake's got to review all these PRs as quickly as I'm putting them up. Again, you don't need to do this. So if I want to delete this, I can just right click, I can rename it, or I can delete it. Gets rid of the folder, gets rid of the chat. It does add a couple of these new chats from time to time, which is something I'm actively working on to try to get rid of. As I find it just keeps on creating new chats, and I've tried a few times to stop that. Instead, to just go back to using the previous new chat that has zero text in it or a minified version. I haven't come up with a good solution for that just yet. And then one of the other biggest complaints I had was if I'm trying to add a new project, quite often I don't know the path, right? If I don't know the exact path, but I want to add something to the project, I didn't want to have to type it in. So I implemented like a simple drop down that it just takes a map of the machine that the app's running on, and I can come in here and I can be like, oh, I want to import my AI starter template or my BetterStack mono repo project, and that should add that. So it adds it there, adds everything under general. And now if I want, I can come in here and I can add a new feature folder under this repo. So it's like update docs, and then I've got an update docs under my mono repo template. It's just a nicer way of interacting with all these agents. And again, I'm still an engineer. I'm still looking at the code. I've got so many work trees of different things I'm actively reviewing as we create this change. So they're all things when I have time, I'm like, okay, I'll start another agent. Someone said notifications. Yeah, I've been working on that. It's hard because Tailscale, localhost is HTTP. Localhost actually works with notifications. It just doesn't work on remote connections. So that's something we need to solve as well. But yeah, again, adding the import for existing folders. And if it's not in this documents, I just put documents as like a general folder directory. You can load your root folder. So it'll go up to your root. It just added a lot of folders I didn't really like, but that's an option for you too. I might even consider different ways to this. Again, open to suggestions, just leave it in the chat and we can talk about it. But then, yeah, I'm working through a few things, especially around the Gemini implementation stuff. But I want to jump over to mobile, so let's pop over to that. All right, so what you guys are looking at here is actually a stream from my MacBook, streaming my iOS phone, which is in front of me. So all we're going to do is just basically go through the same way, and you can see that already the mono repo's been added in there. The folders and everything are there, so everything's imported nicely. All my projects are there, everything's there. I can adjust things exactly the same as I would on desktop, and it's updating in real time. So all of the other devices, again, this is just running on the computer that you're doing the development on. So these are things that are just triggered and updated at real time. Then I can go through here and be like, oh, okay, I can see all my folders. I've got my settings there. I don't know how the settings looks on iOS, actually. That's something we can look at. But again, all there, looks like it looks pretty good. One thing I did notice is there was no X button at the top here, so I just added an X button to go back, and then you can see how the chat looks. Yeah, I think it's starting to look really, really nice. I hid some buttons, especially on remote host, because again, you can't open a file explorer or your editor from a mobile device, but you can obviously chat, you can do all your things, you can change the model, you can change from plan to or full access to plan mode. All the stuff is there. You can do that. You can even add images from your device. I'm not going to open that. Something else I also liked was someone put up a PR for like making it a web application, right? So that's something I can show you as well. So here I've got, well, for one, I've got my 747-day Duolingo streak. How about that? But I have my Kanna app at the bottom there. You can see that when I click that, opens up as a web app. So once you have Tailscale set up, once you have Kanna set up and running locally, I actually have it now that it'll run that command on startup. It'll navigate to the folder and run the start command. And that means that even if there's a power outage and my computer reboots, it'll instantly start it back up. And no matter where I am, I can now basically jump in, plan, start implementing code, and then all I need to do is review the code. And actually, it's even better than that. I can use these tools to create pull requests. And then if I want to, I could go to the pull request on my phone and review the code there. I don't really do that. I'm still actively looking at the code in the IDE, and I have some skills I run to do a code review before I push it to GitHub. So that's my process. If there's something else you guys think would be cool, drop it in the comments below and we can look at getting it implemented. Again, huge shout out to Jake. I know he's busy with his other companies, so I'd love to get more people involved in this because I think it's just such a simple thing. I actually think this is the future and people can use kind of a baseline and build from there. Everything I'm doing now is just quality of life, and then things like the folders and the Kanban style states were just things I added because I thought, well, I might like that. And then I did. At the end of the day, that's all we do. We solve problems for ourselves and then try to help others with it as well. Another thing was expanding this. I wanted to have the option to make this bigger. And again, it records, it doesn't lose its memory on that. It'll remember it. It also generates a better name for the chats now rather than this. A lot of the time, it's just nice to have cleaner understanding of what the chat actually does rather than just a long ass name of not really knowing. So again, just a bit of a deeper dive. If you found this useful, don't forget to check out Jake's repo. And if you want to play around with my version, by all means, jump in. I said I'll get these docs updated right now. Thanks for watching.